It was a quiet Thursday morning when I found the envelope in my mailbox, stamped with the bold letters, HOA notice. I already knew what this meant before I even opened it. Karen. Our neighborhood's self-appointed sheriff, also known as the head of the HOA Compliance Committee. Karen was in her mid-50s, sharp bob haircut, pressed polo shirts with the HOA logo, and a whistle always dangling from her neck like she was the referee of the entire cul-de-sac. She took her role far too seriously. I opened the envelope and, sure enough, it was a warning letter. According to her, my garbage bins had been left, visible from the street for 17 minutes past collection time. She claimed this violated Section 14B, subparagraph 3 of the HOA handbook. I laughed. 17 minutes? I was literally talking to my neighbor when the truck pulled away. But Karen must have been lurking, stopwatch in hand. The letter wasn't just ridiculous. It was condescending. She ended it with, "Repeated violations may result in fines and escalation. Please be more considerate of your neighbor's property values." I crumpled the paper, ready to toss it. But then I noticed the space at the bottom labeled Signature of Recipient. That's when the idea hit me. Instead of signing as the recipient, I scribbled in bold letters, "Approved, HOA President." See, what Karen didn't know was that I had recently been voted in as HOA President at the last annual meeting. She had been so busy patrolling everyone else's lawns and mailboxes that she didn't even notice. I was the one in charge now. So, technically, when she sent me that warning letter, she was sending it to her boss, and I had every right to approve or reject her nonsense. I slipped the letter back into an envelope signed across the flap and slid it into the HOA's official drop box. The next day, the neighborhood grapevine was buzzing. Karen had apparently stormed into the HOA office, demanding to know why her letter had been returned with my signature. She didn't like being reminded she wasn't the top dog anymore. I could almost picture her red face clutching that letter. As the realization sank in, she had officially tried to fine her own president. But this was just the beginning, because if Karen wanted to play HOA games, I was more than ready to play them better. The morning after I signed her letter as HOA president, I was sipping coffee on my porch when I heard the sound of quick, heavy footsteps. Sure enough, there she was, Karen, marching straight toward me with the letter clutched in her hand like a smoking gun. "Do you think this is funny?" she snapped, waving the paper. I leaned back in my chair, deliberately calm. "Morning, Karen. Coffee?" She ignored the offer. "You can't just sign official warnings like that. This is a serious matter. You left your garbage bins out past the allowed time. Section 14B. Yeah, I interrupted, sipping my mug. "I read your letter. But here's the thing. You sent it to the HOA president." Her lips tightened. "That doesn't matter. You still broke the rule." "Oh, it matters," I said, setting down my mug. "Because as president, I get the final say on what counts as a violation worth pursuing. And I've decided that leaving my bins out for 17 minutes doesn't exactly threaten the fabric of our community." Karen's face turned the color of ripe tomatoes. "This is outrageous." "You're abusing your power." I smiled. "No, Karen, I'm using it. The same way you've been abusing yours for years." Neighbors had started peeking, through blinds and even stepping out onto their porches. Nothing drew a crowd faster than a Karen showdown. She noticed the audience too and tried to rally support. "Everyone here knows I've been the one keeping this neighborhood in shape. Without me, lawns would be overgrown. Mailboxes would be mismatched. Fences would look normal." I cut in. "Karen, people moved here to enjoy their homes, not live under your personal police state." One of the neighbors, an older man named Jim, chimed in. "He's right. Last month you cited me because my grandkids' chalk drawings weren't aesthetically consistent." Another voice joined in. "And you fined me for having Christmas lights up past New Year's." The tide was turning fast, and Karen knew it. She clutched the warning letter tighter, like it was her last shred of authority. "Fine," she hissed. "If you think you can undermine me, go ahead. But don't come crawling back when this neighborhood falls apart without me." With that, She spun on her heel and stormed away, muttering under her breath. I leaned back in my chair again, feeling a small victory. But deep down, I knew Karen wasn't done. She wasn't the type to back down quietly. If anything, this confrontation had only made her more determined. The real battle was just beginning. I should have known Karen wouldn't let things go. For a few days, the street was oddly quiet. No letters, no confrontations, no whistleblowing. Honestly, it was unsettling, like the calm before a storm. Then, one Monday morning, it began. I came home from work to find 3 more envelopes stuffed in my mailbox, each stamped with HOA notice. Karen had written me up for 1. My lawn being 0.5 inches longer than approved length. 2. A decorative garden gnome, not listed in the HOA-approved ornament catalog. 3. My porch light bulb being too bright and disruptive to the aesthetic nighttime ambiance. I laughed so hard I nearly dropped the letters. This wasn't about rules anymore. This was Karen's revenge campaign. But she wasn't stopping with me. Jim called me that evening, fuming. She cited me again for watering my lawn at the wrong time of day. Said it disturbed the quiet hours. Another neighbor, Lisa, texted me a photo of her violation notice. Karen had dinged her for hanging a bird feeder that attracted non-native species. It was chaos. Karen was on a ticket spree, handing out violations like a cop with a broken radar gun. And each one carried the threat of fines. That's when I realized what she was really doing. She wanted to make me look weak. By unleashing a flood of warnings, she hoped the neighborhood would demand stricter enforcement, painting me as an incompetent president who couldn't keep Karen in check. Smart move, for her. But she underestimated one thing. Nobody actually liked her. So, instead of panicking, I called an emergency HOA meeting. Word spread quickly, and by Thursday evening, the clubhouse was packed. Neighbors filled the seats, holding stacks of Karen's ridiculous citations. When Karen walked in, clipboard under her arm, you could feel the tension rise. She sat near the front, eyes sharp, ready to argue. I stood at the podium and held up one of her letters. Neighbors, I'd like to ask a simple question. Who here has received one of these in the last 2 weeks? Every hand in the room shot up. Karen shifted in her chair, but I didn't let her speak yet. We all know rules are meant to keep order, not to be used as weapons. And I think we can all agree, this isn't order. This is harassment. The crowd murmured in agreement. Some shouted, "Enough is enough!" Karen shut up, her voice trembling with rage. "If you remove me, this community will collapse. You'll see weeds, broken fences, chaos everywhere." But for the first time, the neighborhood wasn't afraid of her anymore. They were fed up, and they were ready to act. The HOA clubhouse was buzzing with tension. Karen stood stiffly at the front row, gripping her clipboard like a knight's shield, while the rest of the neighborhood glared at her. It was clear this meeting wasn't going her way. I cleared my throat. As HOA president, I'm putting this to a vote. The question is simple. Should we continue allowing Karen to serve on the compliance committee? Before Karen could interrupt, a chorus of voices filled the room. "No! Get her out!" "Enough already!" She tried to shout over them. "You can't do this. I've given years of service to this community. Without me, you'd all be living in filth." But the more she ranted, the worse it got for her. Neighbors began reading her violation letters aloud. "Bird feeders attracting non-native species. Really, Karen?" Lisa said, shaking her head. "Sidewalk chalk drawings. Lowering property values. My grandkids. We're just drawing flowers?" Jim bellowed. The room erupted in laughter. And for the first time, Karen's authority cracked. I raised my hand, bringing silence. We all respect rules when they make sense. But when one person twists them for control, it's not community, it's tyranny. A round of applause broke out. Even the quieter families, the ones Karen usually intimidated, clapped with relief. Seeing she was cornered, Karen tried one last desperate move. She stood, voice trembling with forced confidence. "This whole thing is illegitimate. You can't just strip me of authority. I'll appeal. Karen," I cut in gently, "I'm your boss. And the neighborhood has spoken. I held up the motion to remove her from the compliance committee. Hands shot into the air, an overwhelming majority. Only one stayed down, Karen's. The gavel came down. Motion carried. For a moment, Karen just stood there, pale and speechless. Then, with a dramatic huff, she gathered her clipboard and stormed out of the clubhouse. Her footsteps echoed, the sound of her reign finally crumbling. The moment the door slammed shut, the room broke into cheers. Relief washed over everyone. It felt like the neighborhood had been freed from years of petty tyranny. Afterward, people came up to thank me. Lisa handed me cookies. Jim shook my hand firmly. "About time someone stood up to her," he said. That night, I sat back on my porch sipping a cold drink. For once, the street felt peaceful. No whistles, no stalking, no violation letters. Just neighbors enjoying their homes. Karen might still be fuming behind closed blinds, plotting her next move, but it didn't matter anymore. Because this time, the community had chosen freedom over fear. And all it took was one signed letter to remind Karen who was really in charge. Enjoying this wild HOA showdown? Tap subscribe to catch more neighborhood drama stories just like this one. Don't forget to hit like if Karen made you roll your eyes, and drop a comment. What's the most ridiculous HOA rule you've ever heard of?